Hi and welcome to a new episode of Trick or Treat. This is a game where we have to discuss two options and make the right choice. In this game, it's wise to always assume the worst case scenario for every choice you're given. That's kind of key. What we shouldn't do instead is base our choices on what we see as the best case scenario, unless it becomes absolutely necessary. So the worst case scenario should be treated as real, even if it's only a possibility. The best case scenario, on the other hand, should be taken into consideration only if it is necessarily implied by the option. That's to say, if it comes with the option. So we shouldn't be engaging in any wishful thinking. That's what I'm trying to say. Let me give you an example. If I have the option to enroll in a university program that provides full board, assuming I won't have to look for a place to live for the duration of the program is not wishful thinking. It's implied in the option. But we'll find another example of that in today's discussion, so don't worry. On the left, we have a perfect internet connection. On the right, have an infinite phone battery. Let's discuss have a perfect internet connection first. At first glance, there doesn't seem to be a scenario worse than what the text says. It says perfect, which implies a connection that's as stable and fast as possible. There don't appear to be any hidden pitfalls. The matter would seem settled. But this option implies an even better scenario in our game because it follows necessarily, not just as a mere possibility, from what the text tells us. You see, our connection is part of a system, since we are connected to a network, wired or wireless. So we are entitled to assume, therefore, that others also have this perfect connection and that there is already some technology in place, more or less widespread, that makes it possible. The entire planet could benefit from it if it isn't already. Moreover, this state of affairs isn't hard to imagine as a future reality based on what we already have today. We already have pretty decent connections that are fast and reliable, close to perfect. So it's not as if we are so far from that outcome that we'd have to conceive some far-fetched alien technology scenario or something like that. On the somewhat negative side, that means choosing that black option wouldn't necessarily yield much. For the white option, we have an infinite battery, and infinite most likely refers to its duration. So the text is quite clear. If we chose the white option, we would get a battery that lasts forever. All good. The only limits I can see here are that there's just one battery and that it's only for my phone. That's a scenario that we have to consider. That's what the text says, and we're not allowed to imagine anything better. So if the phone breaks to the point of being unusable, we'd have to toss it and say goodbye to the infinite battery. The question is it possible for me to give this technology to science so that they can understand how it works and reproduce it, replicate it on a large scale? As you might already know, battery life is practically the only area of mobile technology that hasn't seen real progress. Our mobile devices have improved in almost every way, except in this one aspect. Even the durability of the glass, to name one, has advanced with the multiple generations of Gorilla Glass. If there have been any improvements in battery life, they've come from hardware and software optimizations, as well as using larger batteries. But these are just incremental changes. There's never been a real breakthrough. This text seems totally locked in by the laws of physics, it looks like. But if I donate my phone to science, I have no guarantee, actually quite the opposite, that scientists will be able to replicate my battery's technology for mass production and put it in laptops, tablets, or electric cars and whatnot. There's even a chance that the material my battery is made of comes from another planet and can't be sourced here on Earth. This material could also be highly radioactive for all we know, or otherwise harmful to our health. As far as we know today, the laws of physics don't allow for the creation of any object that could last forever. There's also the possibility that infinite doesn't refer to the battery's charge, but to the battery itself as an object. It could give me an infinite number of cycles without wearing out. That's what I'm trying to say. But the point from before still stands. An object whose functions last forever just doesn't square with the laws of physics. In short, there are dark sides that make the wide option seem unreliable. It leaves way too much room for interpretation and the prospect of negative scenarios. The connection on the opposite side of things, if you go back to the black option, is already perfect, and that doesn't open the door to any negative scenarios. Moreover, as already hinted at the beginning, perfectly Earth-based technology today already allows for a perfect connection. Ultra-fast, stable connections are actually the norm today. Sure, other systems that support internet technology aren't perfect. Take the power grid, for example. A blackout or failure there could knock out the connection. But that's another matter, since it refers to a system different from the one described in the black option. In short, we have to accept that even with a perfect connection, we could still be offline occasionally. The internet doesn't exist in a vacuum. So I'm going with the black option. Not that it matters all that much for me personally. My current connection already works just fine for what I do online. But in general, having an ultra-stable, ultra-fast connection can only be a good thing. And anyway, the black option comes with far less uncertainty. Now let's see what the audience picked. I'm guessing they went with the white option, but not by a huge margin. Let's see if I'm right. 65 would choose to have a perfect internet connection against 35 who would rather choose to have an infinite phone battery. We got a clear winner. And now, on to the next dilemma, material for the next video. I'll give you a teaser. Always be too hot, always be too cold. Interesting. Okay. It's all for now. I wish you a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.